Hey, Krystian, thanks so much for joining me today. I really appreciate it.
Hi, Jack. Thanks for having me.
I'd love to dive into yourself and the work that you do at Watergate. We've had lots of conversations up until now around the work you do and the type of challenge that you're solving at Watergate. But for those unaware, let's just maybe start from the top and have a bit of an introduction to yourself and the work that you and your fantastic team do.
Sure. Well, we're trying to tackle a ticking time bomb, which is water waste. It's an escalating scandal, in our view. 1.8 billion people worldwide are already suffering from water shortages, and two-thirds of the world's population will be affected by water stress by 2025. And these are statistics from UNESCO. It's not something we made up. And if you'd think that this is just a problem of developing countries, you would be wrong. Even in the UK, we will have a deficit of about 3 billion litres of water by 2035, which is more than the total consumption of London. And most of the problem is driven by leaks. About 30% of all drinking water is lost in leaks. And 25% of that happens inside properties. This means that we're losing billions of water a day through leaks that are fully preventable. So at Watergate, we decided that it's time to do something about this, and we've built an end-to-end solution, starting with hardware and software that give us consumers and businesses alike tools that help us make sense of what's happening inside your property when it comes to your water consumption and water waste. This helps us then nudge you to make better decisions when it comes to your water consumption, your water behavior. And more importantly, we actually stop damage to your assets, to your property by actively preventing leaks in real time.
There's so much I could dive into there, but I feel like I maybe owe it to some people listening who maybe aren't as familiar with water to really first ask this question to you. We do hear about water shortages, we hear about the lack of water. Where does the water go? So when we have a leak, and is it just this continually dissipating resource? Where does the water go? And why is it something that we have so little control over?
Water damages your property. If in case of leaks, depending where they happen, in transit or inside your properties, we as Watergate, we are focusing on damages and leaks behind your stopcock. So nothing to do with physical transit infrastructure that water utilities use. It's everything that happens inside your property. So when there is a leak, it ends up in the ground, whether inside or outside your property. And then this water recycles, as you know, you've got rain, and the wrong type of rain doesn't really help when our infrastructure is unable to cope with it. And we've seen it in the UK as well. But ultimately, water is extracted back from ground, and then it needs to be treated. It needs to be transported to our properties. It needs to be boosted inside the properties. So there's an enormous amount of effort that needs to go into giving us this precious resource. And one thing that people are completely, I think most people are completely unaware of, that this is very energy intensive process. And that's one of the things that we want to change when it comes to everyone's perception, because consumption and waste generates a lot of carbon footprint. In fact, your water consumption at your home generates more carbon than your car, which is shocking.
I want to just take it back slightly around the scale of challenge that we face as humanity. We know that this is, as you say, a massive problem ahead of us, and it will affect many people around the world, both in urban economies and more rural. What does this challenge of water stress look like? How is it? What are the main factors that contribute towards it? And how is that felt by the communities that it affects?
Well, it's a number of contributing factors. It's the aging infrastructure. In the UK, we're using infrastructure that was designed in the 18th century. In fact, your stopcock, your stop valve, it's still an invention that was made in the Victorian times. So has not kept with time. That's one massive physical contributing factor. I guess the lack of, I don't want to go hard on the utilities, but the vast majority of our water is wasted, lost in leaks in transit. There are lots of things that could be done better by water utilities, but equally, as I mentioned earlier, a huge portion of leaks happens inside our properties. Depending on the statistics where you look at it, between 25 and 30% of all water is lost inside our properties. A lot of water is just wasted. People are simply unaware of the problem, and they don't think of water as something that is becoming scarce. People still take long showers, people still don't close their tap when brushing teeth. You'd be surprised to learn that an average person in the UK consumes almost 150 liters of water per day. And in fact, when we put our system in someone's property, they are almost shocked to see how much water is consumed. So it's a combination of the aging infrastructure, the limited resources, and when it comes to consumers and businesses alike, I think it's the lack of awareness about the problem. It's like what we had with plastic bags in the past, or
Yeah.
responsible waste disposal. This, what's a crucial part of our life? In fact, let's just look at it. We could survive without energy, without electricity. This is what has happened since the beginning of the human race. And yet we cannot survive without water. And we are oblivious. We are not aware enough about the scale of the problem because we're surrounded by water and we think, hey, there's seas, there's oceans, there's plenty of water. Well, yes, but we cannot drink it. So if you look at all water available on this planet, we are only able to consume 0.005% of it.
And your point around leaks within homes is very close to home for me because I have suffered from a very bad leak. It's this massive issue that creeps out of nowhere and hits you hard. And you then find yourself in this continuous loop with the insurance companies. So it's an issue very close to home for me. And it's one that is seemingly getting worse. It's a water company problem, it's a consumer problem, but also it's a big insurance problem, right?
It's a massive insurance problem. In fact, the reason I'm here is because of my experience in the insurance space. Water leaks cause, or as it is officially called, water escape, causes more damage than fires and thefts. Quite often, more than fires and thefts combined, depending on which year you look at. But statistically, about 30% of all claims payouts are to do with water escape related claims. So it's a massive problem for the insurance industry as well. But it's also an opportunity because we've got a stakeholder who has a vested interest in trying to minimize that sort of exposure. And this is where we as Watergate are trying to leverage, because we know that if we can help you as a consumer or as a business to prevent leaks, stop them, you're not just doing something good for the environment, you're not just protecting your assets, things that money cannot replace quite often, but you're also potentially reducing your insurance premium, because we're now in discussions with insurance companies who will be rewarding you for being a better risk. So this is a massive environmental problem, but there's also a financial incentive for multiple stakeholders, utilities alike and insurance alike, that we can bring together and help make it a no-brainer decision to start saving water, stopping leaks in particular.
So with leaks within the home or water escapes, as you say, would you say it's a consumer behavior point, almost like excess use of water, so leaving the tap on whilst you brush your teeth, combined with maybe an age in infrastructure, Victorian stopcock type issue? Would you say it's a behavior point where we are then thrashing aged infrastructure relentlessly, or is there sort of a third factor within that space?
No, I think this would be an oversimplification. When it comes to the aging infrastructure, it's mostly to do with the pipes in transit and obviously the technology that hasn't really caught up with regards to us being notified, because lots of properties are obviously not as old as the 18th century. When I'm referring to water escape or escape of water related insurance claims, this has nothing to do with water waste that, when it comes to you not closing the tap when brushing teeth. It's the actual damage caused by a ruptured pipe, or quite often a small leak developing over time, noticed for months, then resulting in a massive damage. You've got small pinhole leaks in your pipework. You may have a poor connection somewhere, poorly installed connector somewhere, or an appliances that can leak, boilers, tanks, etc. So when it comes to the overall picture, can help. It's a combination of everything. We can help you spot tiny leaks before they become a problem. We can help you with catastrophic leaks by detecting them and shutting off your water supply to prevent damage to your property. But when it comes to our behavior, this is something that we're quite keen on changing as well. And we are developing behavioral nudges and, most importantly, giving you statistics, giving you insight into your water consumption, which on its own changes people's behavior. We've seen a reduction of around 15 to 20% in water consumption, just genuine water consumption. I'm not talking about leaks, with people who have been exposed to that data. It's like driving a car and not having your speedometer. You don't know
Yeah,
how fast you're driving. So we need to give you this kind of cluster of instruments that gives you a bit more visibility into your problem. And most importantly, I guess, it's the fact that it's easily accessible. Because if you zoom out for a second, we're now surrounded by smart technology wherever you look at. You've got video doorbells, you've got connected cameras, you've got smoke sensors, you've got connected thermostats. Nest connected your thermostat to your phone. Ring connected your doorbell to your phone. Watergate is connecting water to your phone. And the smart stopcock, it's not the Victorian era stop, it's a connected device that makes you aware of your water consumption and then gives you actionable insight to change that behavior and help you manage your water.
when you put it like that, seems like a no-brainer, right? It's very much the evolution of home water management. I do want to ask, though, we do see a lot of smart meters rolled out within the UK water sector. How does this compare to the smart meters that you see the water utilities rolling out?
Well, first of all, it's good that smart meters are being rolled out. You cannot compare Watergate solution to smart meters, unfortunately, because it's kind of like comparing apples with oranges. This podcast isn't supposed to be about me promoting the product, but this is our device. It's a valve. A smart water meter is unable to shut off your water supply, and it doesn't have all the functionality of our device. Smart water meters finally allow the utilities to see your water consumption. But let's just look at a couple of important things. First of all, smart water meters are not officially mandated. It's the water utility who can sort of mandate it on you, but it is owned by the water utility. It's usually at the boundary of your property. It's not inside your house. So, it can alert water utilities to some sort of problems and gives them access to that data. But this data is not real time. As far as I understand, smart meter readings are taken once an hour on average. There are a couple of water utilities that I'm aware of, definitely Thames Water and I think Anglian, who are doing a relatively good job when it comes to rollout. Everyone else is quite behind the curve. They are running pilots, but not necessarily deploying at scale. And even those who are deploying it, including the companies I've just mentioned, do not really have an engaging proposition for consumers to interact with. So there are no mobile apps that can give you real-time insight into your water consumption. There is potentially a mobile-friendly website that you have to log into, check your water statistics, but it's nothing comparable to what Watergate brings to the table. So beyond the physical limitations of a smart water meter, its accuracy compared to our ultrasonic flow meter, beyond the fact that we've got a pressure sensor that can spot tiny pinhole leaks that a flow meter won't be able to see, the fact that we've got a temperature sensor that can alert you to a risk of freezing pipes and an elevated risk of Legionella, which is quite an important feature that we bring to the table. It's just the fact that there is no user engagement. So for me, the biggest issue with smart meter rollout is it's not really going to change users' behavior. It's not going to stop leaks, for starters, because there is no shut-off. It's not going to change users' behavior unless maybe utilities start using our platform, because we already, we've got all the gamification, we've got the app, we've got the ability to integrate with them, and they can start engaging with them in real time. Otherwise, I don't think it's going to change anything.
That difference between your solution in smart meters is quite astounding. The pressure sensing, the different types of detection, and the ability to actually stop the water flow when a leak is detected is a really interesting evolution of the way that water is managed at a home level. The consumer behavior point I'm really interested in. We know from the little smart energy meters that you see in a lot of people's houses now, and there are a few apps on the energy side trying to make people more aware of their energy usage. It sounds as though we are almost a few steps behind within water around actually making people aware of, okay, this is when you leave the tap on when you brush your teeth in the morning, this is the effect that it will have on your water bill. Putting that data in front of people really brings that awareness. But I'm sure we could go so much further to improve awareness and change consumer behavior for the better. What does that look like for you? Where does your vision sit within the realm of changing consumer behavior?
It's good that you've mentioned energy meters because, again, I think it's different than water. So, yes, first of all, yes, smart water meters and utility companies are far behind where we are with the energy sector. But, and here's the thing, even though water is a big problem, it is still very inexpensive. So I do not believe that showing people how much money they can save just on water bills is going to cut it. What you need to do is give them a much more comprehensive view of everything and anything that is relevant to their water consumption. Just to give you a couple of examples. Recognize what sort of appliances are using water. Is it a washing machine, a dishwasher, toilet, shower, tap, etc.? And this helps us build a much more engaging value proposition from the consumer and business point of view. What people don't usually realize, water consumption is very closely linked to your water consumption. Most of us don't take cold showers, do they? About 20% of your electricity bill is used to heat up your water. What we're trying to do is connect the dots or connect the drops, as we say internally, which then means we can show you the true impact of your behavior, not just on your water bill, but on your energy bill and on your carbon footprint is a massive environmental problem. It is the missing puzzle piece in the ESG agenda. 1 cubic meter of water is the equivalent of 10.4 kilograms of CO2, which is the same as 4.4 liters of petrol.
And I think the carbon point really does drive it home for many people because carbon is this challenge at the front of a lot of people's minds. Carbon has very much been through this journey and there's a lot more awareness of it. People started off with the recycling almost 2 decades ago now. And it is this point that a lot of people are aware of. And it feels like water is going through that same journey. And there is that sort of famous phrase of water is the new carbon, as you touched on earlier. So we've got this carbon awareness at a consumer level. We know that there's this challenge around water leakage, water shortages. Your point around the impact on our energy bill and our water bill of using, say, hot showers as opposed to cold showers. It feels as though there's this inevitable direction that we're heading in of cold showers and everything else. Where do you think, what would you say are the most important first steps? Do you think it is tackling like leakages in our household using like sort of pressure tests and stopcocks? Or do you think that there are like little baby steps that the consumers should be approaching far beyond obviously turning the tap off whilst they brush their teeth?
Most of the properties we equip with Watergate Sonic have a pre-existing problem. Quite often it is something very small that a regular flow meter wouldn't see. They might be tiny, teeny leaks in your appliance hose. They might be leaky toilets. So if we can tackle those pre-existing problems to start with, this on itself is going to save millions of liters of water each day. We've got customers, these are businesses, big landlords, for example, student accommodation or build-to-rent apartment blocks or hotels, and they have pre-existing leaks that a single leak can consume about 8 liters of water per minute. That's almost 500 liters per hour or 12,000 liters per day. It's a massive waste of water. Now, this is something you would see. One of the customers we've allowed them to register about 220,000 liters of water wastage per month just in pre-existing small leaks. That's just mind-blowingly big number. So yeah, it's mostly about leaks. Number one, this is something that we have to address because, or just literally going down the drain because of a leaky toilet. This is something that we can address quickly. Then changing people's behavior. We've created something cool. We are working with Waterwise, who are a prominent voice in the space. Very soon, there will be a new tool available to all of us on both Watergate's website and Waterwise's website. We've basically created a water impact calculator that will be free for everyone to use. And this is to educate everyone around how small changes, like even taking a shorter army style shower when you don't waste water when you apply soap, how much water and money this can save you on a monthly and annual basis. You'd be surprised how small changes, like shaving a few minutes off your shower time, what a profound impact this can have on water waste.
This is really important. It's that consumer behavior piece, because ultimately we are the ones consuming this water. It doesn't necessarily fall on a large faceless multinational somewhere else in the world. It falls on ourselves, actually, more than most other factors affecting the planet. It's our own behavior that really can drive that change around water demand, water usage, etc. And I was just thinking around your sampling rates within your technology means that there must be so much data produced, and that would just be an absolute gold mine for AI machine learning algorithms to try and detect these little micro trends in the data to then help give consumers at an individual level on their mobile phone, on their Apple Watch, a little nudge to point them in the right direction. But I'm sure it could go too far. If I'm washing up after my dinner and I get a little nudge, be like, hey, turn the tap off, I might push back.
Jack, it's literally, as if you were giving me a pitch of Watergate. This is exactly what we're doing.
Yeah. It's powerful. It's really powerful.
The telemetry that we're getting is really rich, and because we can use AI to distinguish between different appliances consuming water, we are working with behavioral scientists to make sure that they are as impactful as possible. We are already trialing certain algorithms we've developed, and we are now testing them, that will help us also try and maybe not pinpoint exactly where the leak is, but give you some sort of hints as to where it might be, at least when it comes to things like leaky toilet. Just by looking at the pattern, we can say, okay, this is most likely a leaky toilet, not a genuine water consumption. But yes, data is very important. And for us, it is very critical that you control your data. So one of the important things, again, going back to the smart meter kind of comparison, smart meter data is owned by the utility company. Now, when it comes to us, you control how you want to use your data, what you do with that data. And if you would like us to then give access to this data to an external party, like your water utility, hopefully, or maybe your insurer in the future, to get a discount. It's also very helpful in a number of ways. Up until now, we've been talking about when there is abnormal water consumption. But what if we reversed it? Let's say your parents are in an assisted living accommodation. They still want to feel independent, but you want to make sure that they are okay, they are healthy. We can give you the least invasive way of monitoring their health by giving you access to triggers when water has not been used when it should have been. So let's say elderly usually get up at 6 a.m. or 7 a.m. The first thing they do is they go to the toilet or put the kettle on. And this hasn't happened this morning. You as a carer will get a link, hey, they haven't actually gone to the toilet yet. Now, this feels a bit spooky. That's why we've got to handle it very carefully. But I believe this is such a powerful, empowering tool for the aging population. Instead of using cameras or motion sensors that are truly intrusive and invasive, this is what everyone's been doing and what it's doing now. We don't want that. The telemetry data from water can be used to have a very good positive impact on everything around us.
Absolutely. And it all starts from data, right? It starts from the capturing and storing of all of that data over time, little micro trends to then really build separate businesses based on all of the various use cases that all stem from the same data set, which is pretty powerful. And ultimately, it all comes down to benefiting the planet, benefiting the consumer, benefiting this world of infrastructure that we are so heavily dependent on, and so much more.
I mean, I cannot see how it's a win-win-win for everyone. I believe, you as a consumer, you're protecting your assets, saving money, saving the planet. What not to like? We collectively we are having a very positive impact on the society, on the environment, and most importantly, it doesn't cost you basically anything. Investment in water saving technologies is, pays for itself, pays back within about 18 months, depending on your water consumption. The payment time is so much faster than your, I don't know, solar panels, for example, or any other energy saving technologies.
Brilliant. Krystian, one last question just to finish. How has your experience been building a startup within the water space? It's a sector that can be quite tricky at times for various reasons. How's your experience been building a startup in such an important but challenging sector?
Well, water is not sexy on the surface of it. It's just not something exciting. Everyone's it's not like someone's jumping out of bed saying, "Hey, I'm going to deal with water today." but because my background is a mixture of really cool stuff like smart technologies, but also a very boring topic like insurance. I've got a mixture of those. So water doesn't put me off. The water space, water industry doesn't put me off. It's been challenging on a number of fronts because building a startup that is an end-to-end, a full stack solution, it's hard. It's bloody hard because you've got hardware. It's difficult to build hardware in the water space, full of regulation, certification, as well as quality, because this is part of someone's infrastructure. It's not a plug and play smart speaker that you can unplug from mains and ship back to Amazon. This is something that's going to stay with you, and it's going to have to be reliable. So it's been quite a challenging project, but I'm super happy to say that we're proud of a beautiful product that we've designed, something super smart, modern, and very good looking at the same time. So it's exciting. It is challenging because of the regulatory framework is very inefficient. So for us as a startup, it is a bit of a challenge because we have to help educate the market. Normally, startups are there to build something cool, new, innovative, outsmart, outmaneuver the old incumbents. We don't have that here. For us, it's kind of like a new product category to some extent.
Yeah. So building a startup within a sector that has fairly low digital maturity, a hardware startup, a software capability, but also actually the need for educating at a consumer and a policy level. It's quite a challenge that you've picked, but it's one that is so important. And I think it's quite clear for anyone listening or watching that this is a problem that we really do need to crack. And I'm excited to see your technology brought to life. Krystian, thank you so much for your time.
Jack, thanks for having me here.